One of the things that we always hear is, whether it's from parents and relatives or whether it's from teachers, I didn't know Sally could do that. I had no idea. Sally never talks in class, but look at that, listen to that beautiful voice. And like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that he could dance and, all these different things. I think that our method of teaching presents an opportunity and an atmosphere. What we try to do is create an atmosphere where the kids don't feel pressure. They're open to trying new things. And we always set the table by saying, don't think of it like school. For the next several days, this is the Believe universe. And in the Believe universe doesn't necessarily operate the way everybody does outside this building. We are a family. We come together. We're going to support each other. If we make mistakes, that's great. That's how we learn. That's how we grow.
Welcome to the Sock Door Podcast, where life is messy, but we always find meaning in it. Every week, we pull out the stories, the lessons, and the hidden gems. And then we ask the big question, keep it or kick it? If you're ready for real talk, brave steps forward. I'm your host, Lisa Begley, and you're listening to the Sock Drawer Podcast. Let's jump right in. Hello, Business Insider Roundtable listeners. Have you ever met someone who could walk into a room full of strangers and by the end of the week turn them into a community? Today, we get to talk with someone who's been doing that all over the world. Hello, everyone. And again, welcome to the Business Insider Roundtable. I'm Lisa Begley, and today's guest has spent his life at the intersection of entertainment, education, and community impact. Bruce Sampson is a performer, director, producer, and founder whose work has taken him from his hometown in Bogalusa, Louisiana, to stages and workshops across the U.S., Europe, Asia, and Africa. He's worked with theme parks, dinner theaters, international music, outreach tours, and arts organizations. But what really stands out is how he uses the performing arts to bring people together and help young people believe in themselves. He's the founder of Believe Performing Arts Experience, a camp and a workshop series designed to uplift youth and unite communities. And boy, do we need that today. Bruce, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Roundtable.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, it's my pleasure, honestly. I've just been so excited to chat with you. Let's just start simple. So if we ran into you at the airport and I asked, so what do you do for a living? What do you do? How do you answer that these days?
Yeah, it's a whole thing about the elevator speech and, and all of that. I haven't quite mastered it yet. In fact, I often joke around with folks saying, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up.
Yes, I love that.
Basically, I describe myself as a kind of the way you did, a producer, director, and self-proclaimed youth advocate, and primarily working in the performing arts.
Yeah. How long have you had the performing arts space for the kids? Believe Performing Art Experience. It's a camp, right? And a workshop series. Tell me more about that. What kind of promoted that idea? What made you want to start that for kids?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I've been doing that, off and on and around the world prior to starting Believe, working for other organizations.
Okay.
And going around and directing other groups and doing workshops and things like that. And it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to condense it.
That's okay.
I was working for this other organization, and we were over in Europe, and we did a prison workshop. So we went to this all-male prison, and we were doing like a 2 or 3 day kind of workshop with performing arts with these prisoners. And they were, I guess I'll use the word hostile towards us.
Yeah.
And, but basically, long story short, by the end of it, we were up and singing and dancing together and having a blast. And we were like autographing each other's t-shirts and, and all this sort of stuff. And it was just a beautiful thing. And that evening, or actually the next morning, I had this idea that at some point in the night, I guess I woke up and wrote these notes down on my legal pad. And then I woke
Mm-hmm.
up in the morning and there was this thing, and at the very top of it, it just said believe. And it had this idea for doing this camp. And it was really intended only to happen once in my hometown. The whole idea was I go around the world doing this stuff and trying to impact lives through the arts. But it's like, I need to go back to my own backyard, and do something. And I didn't want to necessarily do it through that organization. I wanted to do it through my own vision for it. And so, but yeah, that's how the idea started anyway.
I love it. Oh, so when you first, how long ago was that?
That was 2013 when the idea happened, 2014 when we did the first camp.
Gosh. Now, did you take it out to communities, or did you have a brick and mortar studio, theater kind of space to use? How did it evolve?
Well, again, it was only meant to happen once. I didn't plan on continuing it. I just
Okay.
want to do something really nice for my community and bring people together. And as soon as I started announcing that it was happening and that I'm coming home, I put it on social media and everything. Before I ever got to my town, we ended up doing a kind of a sample version of it in Southern California, because that's where I was living at the time. And then we brought it. And then before I could finish that one, I got a call from a school that's about maybe 40 minutes from my hometown. And they were like, hey, you want to bring that here too? And like, yeah, we're going to be there anyway. Let's double up on it. Let's go down. And so that was the first one we did. And then there were some other folks that were there that were from a private school in Mississippi that some of those teachers and families brought their kids, and they told us before the thing was even over, they're like, okay, so next year you're going to come to our school. And people were already making plans for us. And
My God.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to.
That wasn't the thought. That wasn't the thought.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
But
well, that's my next question.
Up.
Yeah, I love that. And that just makes sense. And I feel like that was your mission. Like it was super meant to be. Tell me, that's my next question is where do you get the kids? What went into creating these camps for the kids that everybody loved?
Yeah. So basically what we do is we just find either a school or a church or some organization that's willing to partner and host us.
Okay.
And then once we have that part figured out, then we just, utilize online services and stuff to promote it and get people to register for it.
Okay.
And
all right.
Yeah.
What's an average class? What's an average class for you guys?
Oh, well, we kind of, from year to year or from camp to camp, it's usually anywhere from 80 to like 150 kids. It kind of just depends. And then what we do is we divide those kids up into three peer groups. So the elementary school kids are together, the middle school kids are together, and the high school kids are together. So for most of the time they're kind of separated and they kind of just rotate around to the different classes.
Okay. What does the team look like? Is it you have 5 or 10 people? Is there 2 or 3 of you?
Well, that has changed as well.
I can only imagine.
Initially, I think we always have 4 main instructors.
Okay.
So we have a music instructor, voice, we have an acting instructor, and then we have 2 dance instructors. And the reason I wanted 2 dance was I wanted a male and a female, because I knew that was the one area where, especially down south, a lot of males will have a resistance to wanting to do it because they perceive it as being something not for them. And so if you can present a male figure, then they're like, well, he's cool, so maybe I'll do it because he's doing this thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's the core of the teachers. And then I usually bring on 2 other people who are our talent coordinators, and they're the ones who kind of go around all the classrooms and figure out, because we have solo opportunities and featured opportunities for kids. And so they're the ones that go around and figure out what each kid should be doing. That kid can do this and that kid can sing this number. And this kid, can do that. And then they also, teach solos throughout the week to the kids and get them prepared for the performance that comes at the end of the camp.
Okay, and the camp, I'm hearing you, is it a week long?
Yeah, it's usually either 4 or 5 days.
Okay. Okay. Man, and is that based on how many kids you have?
Primarily, yeah. But it also is just the host venue. Sometimes they can only accommodate 4 days or, what have you.
Sure.
So, yeah.
How far out are you guys booked at this point?
Oh, well, this is one of the things we're hoping to expand. But basically what we do is as we go into the next year, so we finish up during the summer. We pretty much only do this during the summer, at least for the most part, historically. But we, so I'll tell you historically, and then I'll tell you moving forward what we want to do.
I love it.
So historically, what we've done is we kind of figure out, well, what's our theme going to be? Who's interested in having us this year, and all of that. And then by the end of the year, we have a calendar set up of here's where we're going and when. We can throw that on a website, and we can throw up, people can start registering right away at that point. And then the rest of it is us. Okay, now we got to put the show together. Okay, let's figure out what this is going to look like, and and move on from there.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's kind of an ongoing thing, so it kind of takes a year, or at least historically. What we're trying to do now is we're trying to do more than that and expand our operation, so that we can go more places and do more things and not be simply restricted to the summer. So for the big camps, that'll probably always be the summer. But what we'd like to do, and we've had a few occasions to do this, is to sometimes just send out small groups of our team, like one person or 2 or 5 people, and send them out to do sometimes just a 1-day event. Sometimes we are doing it with kids, and sometimes we're actually doing it with adults, with teachers and psychologists and different folks like that. And we take them through exactly what the kids would go through. And then, and just trying to demonstrate like our method of teaching and reaching out to kids and bringing people together.
So amazing. I assume there's probably not a lot of marketing at this point. It's all word of mouth. I mean, it just sounds like something that I'm surprised it's going to catch on, and it's going to really take on. Where do you find your talent? The people that your talent instructors, the ones that come or you send out to do the camps?
So the actual, I always refer to them as directors. So
directors. Sorry.
Those directors are actually old friends and people that I've worked with when they were youth, when they were kids, and directed them. And now they're adults and they're professionals in their industries. And so they all agree with the concept of Believe and are really passionate about being a part of it. And so that's the other reason I usually need to know a year ahead of time so that I can book them to be there, because they are in high demand and they too travel the world doing things on their own.
Oh, gosh. So, it makes sense that it's mostly summer, but listen, let's take it back to the origin story, because I want to know more about you. So I know let's see, at 15, you were accepted into the Young Americans. And at 17, right, you were touring with major acts. What do you think that younger version of you was chasing?
Oh, wow. So I can tell you for sure that from a very, very young age, I would venture to even say like 8 or 9 years old, I knew that I wanted to be involved with music. And I knew that I wanted to, at least I thought, I wanted to sing and dance, and I wanted to write music. And so that's kind of where everything started. And to be honest, I was actually just talking to a friend about this the other day, that the first time I actually took it seriously and went, oh, I think I can do this, that I understand that this is something I can do and I don't necessarily have to wait for it, was watching the Ed Sullivan Show, which is dating me really a lot.
I'm right there with you.
Watching Ed Sullivan when the Jackson 5 first appeared. And I remember my mom calling me and saying, "Hey, there's some little boys on TV. Come see them." And I was like they're doing this like now, because I was already a big fan of music, and my dad was a teacher but also a musician, and he had this album collection, and it was mostly stuff like Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra, and like a lot of the crooners and a lot of jazz, but he had a lot of varied stuff, right, as well. And so in my mind, I'm like, I have to be old like these guys in order to do this.
Yeah.
So watching the Jackson 5 was like I don't
I'm
have
in.
to. Yeah, I can start doing this now.
So cool.
Yeah. So that was kind of my beginning
So
of
you
that.
knew early on for sure this was something that you had a passion for.
Oh, for
And
sure.
clearly a gift. So across, you through all your career so far, you've held a lot of roles: performer, director, choreographer, professor, founder. Did I hear writer in there? What's the thread that you feel like, if you look at all of those over the years, what's the thread that's never changed?
Ooh, that's a good question. I guess off the top of my head, what I would say is probably communication and connection. So regardless of what things I've done, because there's one other thing, one other job that I had for a number of years was I worked in radio for a number of years. And so virtually everything I did had something to do with communicating with people. Music was usually somehow in there, and then like I said, the whole idea of connecting with people, because I found, that music is kind of that universal language that we can all kind of relate to and connect to.
Well, I agree with you 100%. You have a beautiful voice. So it doesn't surprise me that you would have been on radio. And connecting, it's kind of part of my intro is, have you ever met somebody that is able to walk into a room and a week later it's a community? And I feel like just getting to know you a little bit, I feel that sense in you. Look what you've created, this beautiful opportunity for these children to express themselves, to be creative, to find their creative spaces. And that is just a beautiful thing in and of itself. So for anybody hearing about it, let's say for the first time, what's the experience like? Like, what's some of the reviews and feedback that you get? What do you see from 4 to 5 days out from these kids? What's the bloom?
So the narrative that always resurfaces with us is this idea that kind of what you stated earlier, is that the kids come in, many of them not knowing each other or not knowing each other well. And there's always some apprehension about what are they going to make us do? What's going to happen here? Because oftentimes, especially with the younger kids, their parents just sign them up. And they're like, I don't know what this thing is that I'm going to, whatever. And so, and I'm going to jump to the end for a second, then I'll come back. So at the end, one of the things that we always hear is, whether it's from parents and relatives or whether it's from teachers, they'll come in and one of the common things is, I didn't know Sally could do that. I had no idea, Sally never talks in class, but listen to that beautiful voice. And like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that he could dance and, all these different things. And so now bringing that back to the beginning is, I think that our method of teaching presents an opportunity and an atmosphere. What we try to do is create an atmosphere where the kids don't feel pressure or, I don't even know the word for it, but, they're open to trying new things. And we always set the table by saying, even if you like attend this school, where we're hosting this thing, don't think of it like school. For the next several days, this is the Believe universe. And in the Believe universe doesn't necessarily operate the way everybody does outside this building. We are a family. We come together. We're going to support each other. And if we make mistakes, that's great. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. And in fact, I love when people make mistakes because then I know, oh, here's where I can help you. Here's how I can help you, and we never presume that, like, a lot of people will think that they need prerequisites to participate, and you don't. It's like, so, and I just had this talk with some educators just a few days ago because we were talking about bringing Believe to their school or the school system. And they were like, oh, yeah. I'm going to hook you up with this person, because they know all the talented kids. And I go, that's wonderful. But I'm also looking for the ones that you haven't identified as being talented, because they just need an opportunity. And that's how we get to that end part of, like, I had no idea they could do that. It's like, yeah, because no one ever gave them the opportunity or gave them the space and the atmosphere in which to operate, to explore it, So, yeah, so what you get is you come in, and immediately one of the first things we do after we introduce ourselves and we show just how much fun we want to have and how silly we are and all of that, we say, okay, let's get started. We bring everybody up on stage because we usually start in the performance area. We go bring them up on stage. We throw on some music and the dance instructors get up and they say, okay, follow the leader. And they start doing some stretching and some different movements and stuff.
Yeah.
And so rather than going in and saying, how many of you have experienced dance? Or how many blah, blah, that immediately sets this thing of, oh, I don't, or, it shuts people down. Right.
Yeah.
And so we don't even bother with that. We go, yes, today if you've never sung a note before, today you're a singer. Let's go. So
good.
Yeah. So that's a lot of it. And then as we go along and we continue to support and they see that they can trust us, then we can do virtually anything at that point.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I think just you and your team removing the fear, and the sort of anticipation of not knowing what's going to take place. It sounds like you just are able to lighten it up right away and bring everybody into a comfort zone that is safe. It's like a safe space where they can be anything they want to be. I love that. It sounds great. Now, let me ask you this. So did I see, I know you've been in multiple states, but even across China?
Yeah. In fact, that happened our first year, that first summer, when again, I just went to go to my hometown. That was all I had planned. So there was a gentleman that I met in California through a mutual friend, and we'd gone out to dinner a couple of weeks before I left California to come to Louisiana. And during that conversation, I brought up Believe and what I was about to go do. And this person their business was handling cultural exchange programs. So they would mostly bring Chinese students over to America and have them experience, staying in homes and going to schools and, that sort of thing. And so I didn't really think much about this guy. I met him. He was very nice. And, we had a great dinner and everything. And then I went on about my business. And so the first day of our very first camp, I'm driving to the school and I get a call from that gentleman. And he said, hi, Bruce, this is Daniel and my plane just landed. And I'm like, great. Where? What? Like, why are you telling me? Like, what's going on? And he goes, I go, where? And he goes, in New Orleans. New Orleans? And he's like, yes, I want to come see your Believe. And I'm like, you flew over here to come see Believe? And he's like, yes. He goes, so I just need to know an address of where do I go? And so I gave him the address. He came, he stayed the whole week. He watched every day afterwards. He would come up to me, shake my hand and say, thank you for allowing me to experience this. And he would always end by saying, the children of China need this. And then he'd walk away. And so the night of our culminating stage show, he did the same thing. He came up to me afterwards and said the same thing. And he shook hands with a lot of our team and said that he wanted to take them out to lunch the next day. And so he treated us all to lunch the very next day, said the exact same thing of the children of China need this. And I'm like, great. I don't know what to do with that, but good luck with that,
Yeah.
And we just went on And then we went on to do the one in my hometown. And then a few days later after we finished, I get this call from Daniel and he's in China now. And he said he wanted to know he said, can you teach Believe by yourself? And I said, I'm not really sure what you mean by that, but like, yes, I could teach the songs, the dances, the acting. Yeah, I could do that, but it wouldn't be the full Believe experience because it's all those personalities and all the energy and it's a machine, right?
Yeah.
I said, but I mean, yeah, sure, I could. And he goes, great. And so we went through a series of phone calls over the next few days of him calling me and asking me weird questions like that. And then finally he said, okay, I want you to come to China, just you. And I want to take you to different schools in different cities. And I want to test to Believe here and see if it works. And so I'm like, I would love to do that, Daniel. I really can't afford to fly to China and do what you want. Or he goes, no. I'll take care of everything. I'm like, okay, great. So he flies me out to China, and each day almost every day. There was a couple of days we had off, but I was there for about a week and a half, and we went to a lot of different schools, and I'd meet a group of students. Usually it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 50 or 60 kids, at the time, and I'd meet with them, and I would teach them a couple of numbers because we were only going to be there for a couple of hours each time.
Sure.
And so we do that, and then we sit down and kind of communicate as best we could. Most of the kids had been taking English, so we could kind of, through broken English and all of that, kind of communicate and understand each other. And so we did that, and then that was birthed into initially him bringing students over to California because I was still living there at the time. Yeah. He was bringing students and teachers, and we would do like these little weekend things with them. And then a couple of years later, he invited us to China, like our team. And so our team flew there, and we did a couple of different, I think we did 3 camps in 3 different schools in China.
Wow.
And it was during their winter break that we did it. Yeah.
What an amazing experience. I mean, I was going to ask you about did you have an interpreter? Did you have someone there who was, making that communication transition for you? But it sounds like it worked out great. Now, would you guys go back? Do you have plans to go back there?
Well, unfortunately, our contact that we had at the time passed away during
I'm so
the COVID
sorry.
period. So we don't have that contact anymore.
Gotcha.
I very much like to, as part of our growth, I'd like to go overseas and not just China. There are a number of places that we're talking to folks and trying to figure out ways to get there.
To bring it. That would be amazing. When you walk into a new city, and not necessarily internationally, but when you walk into a new city with a camp or a workshop, what do you pay attention to first?
Oh, I may need more information. What do you mean?
Like talent or energy or the needs of the community. Like, what do you focus on when you're bringing your team and starting a workshop? What's the first thing that kind of you look for?
Yeah, I think you kind of tapped into it. It's not so much talent. I never worry about talent. Like, that's the least of my concerns is that what,
good.
But I do like to get a sense of what the community is like and what their needs are. So, and sometimes in some situations, you'll talk to a potential host and they'll say, yeah, I think you guys would be really good here because our community just went through something where some kids passed away or, something sad happened, or it's not always that, but, that something has happened in the community that's kind of touched everyone. And so I love to know that going in, but even when we don't know it going in, we usually figure it out during the course of the week and pretty early on. Our acting instructor, Nick Rocks, is amazing in that. And I love to sit in his classroom because it's like a psychology class. It's amazing. Like, he really gets those kids to open up. And one of the things that we always do, and this I think is one of the things that's important about the trust factor and creating the atmosphere that we want, is it is that whole trust thing of like, look, we're going to be honest with you. We're going to be real and we're going to be honest. We're not playing favorites. We're not Like some of the other dynamics that you may be accustomed to in other environments is not what exists in the Believe universe. And so we're all together and we, and that's one of the things, like I said in the very beginning, where we show them that we're also silly. Like
Yeah.
we laugh and joke around with each other and tease each other and everything. And it's like, that's setting the table for them to understand this is who we are. This is not going to be this strict, authoritarian thing. Like, yeah, we have rules, obviously, for safety and for productivity's sake.
You said something earlier that strikes me personally is family. You said, we get up there and we tell them, this is the Believe universe. We're family. And that to me already makes me drop my shoulders, take a deep breath. Like, now I'm an adult. So, I'm sure for kids, it could be different, but I think that's such a beautiful way to kind of relax the start, right? And and just bring them in, right? Is there like a moment, I guess, is there a moment from a camp, any camp or program where you watch someone walk in one way and they walked out changed? It's probably every camp, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It kind of happens all the time. And I'll give you an example. Yeah. So as part of our show that we do at the end, we have a segment just before we conclude and do our final couple of numbers. We have a moment where we let the kids talk and we basically just say, share with us what this week was like for you or what Believe means to you. And that's another one of those things about trust, because we don't know what they're going to say.
Right.
We just hand them a microphone and go, please let it be, kosher.
Clean. Yeah.
And that's usually every time we have a show, that's the moment where I break out the tissue because I just lose it, because especially when the kids get it, because they don't, most of them don't focus on, I learned how to dance or I did this or whatever. They always focus on the togetherness. I made a new friend. I learned this. I have more confidence now. I don't have to be afraid. Those things. And like, there it is. There it is. They get it, and like and like I said, we do that at every show. So that's that moment,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Little different question for you because I'm curious how this translates, right? For leaders listening who don't work in the arts, what is a principle from your world they could borrow to strengthen their team or their culture?
Oh, well, I'm going to go back to the communication thing. It's about creating that space. And you said it earlier, that safe space, creating that safe space where we can be honest and communicate with one another and break down those barriers by understanding that what our similarities are greater than our differences. And if we just give ourselves the space and the time to communicate and to be, that scary word, vulnerable, if we, without actually feeling vulnerable, you know what I mean? Like to create that space. I think that's the thing.
Just creating space for their team to be open.
Yeah.
I love that. You've worked, Bruce, with a lot of dinner theaters, right? Pageants, medical associations, and touring companies on the business side, kind of staying in that theme. What's something that has surprised you about what truly makes a show or program sustainable?
Sustainable. At the end of the day, I'll speak to it, and you'll tell me this is not what you mean, but I'll speak to it from the point of view as the person who usually writes the show, right? Okay. So love it. Regardless of where it is, for me, it's always the more I can, and this kind of goes to the Believe thing too, of understanding what kind of community you're walking into. If I understand who my audience is, then that's half the work right there. If I know who you are, then I know what kind of show will speak to you. And if I give you that, then you're open to all the other stuff. If I just give you a little bit of that, then the rest of it make sense and will pan out and will be
Yeah.
fine. You know, there was a well, the dinner theater that I worked at the longest was a dinner theater in Newport Beach, California, and
What was it called?
um,
Can you
it
say it?
it was called Tibby's Music Hall.
Okay.
It doesn't exist anymore, but
Oh.
yeah, but it was I living in Southern California and living in that area. I knew the people because I interacted with them, and everything, and I knew that
Mm-hmm.
community really well, even though we attracted people from kind of all over. So I just knew what they would respond to, what
Mm-hmm.
types of things they would respond to. And as long as we made it fun and interactive, then here's the thing. If you remember the show Cheers,
Yeah.
their theme song is like, where everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
That's the atmosphere I always tried to create, where it's like, it's not just, oh, I'm coming to sit there in my suit and tie and watch this professional show. It's like,
Yeah.
no, kick your shoes off, kick back and enjoy. And we want you to react and interact with us. And one of my, I guess, secret sauce to most of the shows that I write is I love to include audience participation in some form or fashion, whether that means usually it means the whole audience singing along or clapping along or doing something, right?
Yeah.
Or repeating something or what have you. But sometimes it can literally mean bringing an audience member on stage with us to do something fun,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I find, it's funny when my husband and I will go see a comedy show, that kind of thing every once in a while. And, I love the heckling, right? I like to be like kind of that banter back and forth, whether it doesn't have to be with us, but I just like it in general. I think it's such a impactful thing because it brings the audience in with you. And I think that makes total sense to make them feel, just included. And I think there's so much about hospitality. I know that's, when people think hospitality, I don't know, they think hotels and events and things like that. But there's something about, I think it's a gift and not everybody has it. You definitely have it, clearly, but a way of just being, at making people feel welcome, making people feel warm and at home. And you do that so eloquently. I just love that. Now let me ask you this. Did I hear you're a dad of 3 daughters?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just curious, how's being a father shaped the way you lead, teach, and create? Has that transitioned at all differently or is it just stayed?
No, well, I will say that all 3 of my girls, I'm trying to figure out how to describe this.
Yeah. They might hear
Their
it.
entire lives,
Yeah.
well, I've always joked that they were cursed to be around me and everything because as little kids, they've always been around theater. Like, like they grew up around it. And so I'm like, oh, you guys are doomed. Like from the get go, you were just doomed to somehow be involved in it, but I always tried to create a space for them to discover what they really wanted and not feel forced into something. And they genuinely love the arts. And I've been fortunate enough that to get to work with them, like sometimes at their schools, when they were in school, they were doing a play, I'd go and volunteer and help out and, do whatever. But also
I'm
when
sure
they
love that.
were college age, they traveled around the world as part of the Young Americans and with other groups. And I would get to go along with them and have those experiences with them. So that was just a blessing beyond, anything I could have ever imagined happening.
Yeah.
But all of them are very gifted, very talented. And the oldest and the youngest are actively still in the arts, and that's their job,
Mm.
The youngest works at Disney and the oldest did work at Disney, has worked around the world at different Disney parks, performing cruise ships and all of that. And now she and her husband are in Germany doing The Lion King.
Oh
and
my
they've been there
gosh.
for a couple of years. So yeah.
How amazing. What an experience. I mean, they're so blessed, not cursed, to
Oh,
be able to have grown up with you as their dad and been in the arts. I think, I wish there so many times you hear, and not to go down this path, but so many times you hear of schools eliminating the arts. Gosh, I remember even back, all of our kids, we grew up in Southern California as well, and our kids were all born there. And I was a PTA president, and I remember them one year saying, I think we're going to stop the violin program. We're going to take away the music, like we're going to minimize the library. And I was like, what is happening?
Right.
Like,
Right.
no, we need these things. These are so key. So I appreciate that. And that's amazing that you have daughters doing that still making that their career. Now you, Bruce, have judged competitions, right? You've served on grant panels and you've directed huge productions. But what's the one quiet moment that kind of made you think, this is why I do this?
I guess I would just say it's another one of those things of like whether it's a show or production or whatever, when a parent, in fact, I can give you the perfect example. There's this one parent who, in fact, sent us a video testimonial
Oh,
that every time I see it, I like, I'm like, I get a little choked up, a lot
yeah.
choked up, because she gets choked up in the video.
Mm.
And she said something to the effect of, she said, my daughter used to keep herself in this little cocoon. And she goes, I always knew there was this specialness in her that she would never let out. But after doing Believe, she said, I can only attribute to Believe this thing that allowed her to open up and become who I always knew she could be. And
Yeah.
right before she said that, that's when she would like go, who I always knew she could be. And I'm like, that's it,
Yeah.
And so it's those moments when someone will come up to you afterwards, or I'll give you this example too, especially in my hometown, since
Oh.
year after year after year, we've come here with Believe, right? That I'll run into, like I'll go to a restaurant or something, or whatever, and there'll be this adult that will approach me, this young adult, and they'll break onto a big smile, and I'm like, evidently we must know each other, but I don't recognize you. And then they'll say, aren't you Mr. Believe?
My gosh.
And then they'll relate a story to me of how much that meant to them, because they took it
Oh.
years ago. Now they're an adult, and they're like, you changed my life. And wow, like that's intense.
You can't ask for anything more than that, to have somebody come up to you and say, you changed my life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Powerful. Yeah.
Well, if I could throw in one other little quick thing
Please.
about that
Yeah.
is, and I failed to mention this earlier when we talked about our team and the size of it and all of that. In addition to the directors and the talent coordinators, we also have a group usually of about 6 to 8, we call them counselors, camp counselors.
Mm.
And some of our counselors now, in fact, I'm willing to bet almost all of them. I have to go back and think about it. But most of our counselors now were once kids who took the camp and who reached out and said,
Gosh.
I want to do for other kids what you did for us. And that's everything, and
Yeah.
they will stop whatever they're doing. There's one young lady,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
amazing. She actually moved away,
Mm-hmm.
and she lives in Tennessee now. She's married. She's a teacher. She's a school teacher now. And she always comes back to Louisiana to do the Believe in that area, like to be a counselor every time.
Yeah.
You're a teacher now. And she goes, I don't care.
I don't care. I want to be here.
Yep.
Oh, well, that is a testament to you and the culture you've created and brought to the surface for people to come and feel safe and want to participate and want to be there as often as possible. I hope that we can get this out. You can get this out to the world, that more and more schools and people, you're probably like, oh, that's not how it started, but it is kind of where it's headed. And I think there's a reason for that. Bruce, let me ask you, for anyone listening who has a talent, a passion, or even a tiny spark that they haven't really touched on at all or in a long time, what's a very small step you would suggest they take to begin believing in themselves again and get back to that piece of themselves?
but
Ugh.
because I find that it always comes back, tenfold.
Yeah.
If you initiate that, and then it's that thing of how you made someone else feel. And the Maya Angelou, someone said once the thing
Yep.
about you won't forget, you'll forget what people did or what this or that. I'm messing it up, but they'll always remember how they made you feel, or
Yes.
something like that, right?
Yes. No, it is Maya Angelou, and it is, people will forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Right. Yeah.
So powerful. I love that saying. It just gives me chills that you brought it up. And Bruce, gosh, what a wonderful thing you're doing for our kids out there. And thank you for sharing, I guess, not just your experience, but your heart behind it all. You've given us a powerful look at what happens when creativity and community come together with intention. Can you share for our listeners, like so the website, where they can find you? Maybe if there's teachers listening who think, I know I have a teacher friend in middle school in Redding, California, she's at Conrad Weiser, Nikki, and I'm going to reach out to her and I'm going to send her your link, and she's a drama teacher. And she's put on many, many shows. I can imagine she would love to have her kids be able to attend a camp in the summer. So not to send you to Reading, Pennsylvania, but maybe,
Oh, I'm down.
I would like to pass that along to her. But where can people find you, especially if they want to send their kids or they're interested in finding out more?
Sure. I mean, I will give you our website, which is believecamp.com or .org. Either way, you'll get to us. So believecamp.org. And then we're increasing our presence on social media, so on Facebook and stuff like that. But the website is actually the best source for that.
Okay.
And if I didn't mention it before, we actually are 501c3. Initially, the first few years that we did Believe, it was just basically we would finish up one camp and people would say, hey, can you come to us? And so it was growing organically. But then we kind of figured, okay, if we're going to do this, we need to do it the right way. So we applied and got our 501c3. And so now one of the things we're also doing is looking for people to give and support what we're doing, because it is kind of an expensive proposition in that every time we do these summer camps, we're flying people from California, Seattle, New York, Chicago. They're all flying in, and it takes a lot to, we have to rent vehicles and feed them and house them and all those things. So it can be an expensive proposition. And so any kind of support that we can get to continue that and to grow it so that we can reach more communities, especially those underserved communities.
Okay. Are you on Instagram?
We are.
Okay.
I want to say it's just Believe Camp.
Okay.
So.
I'll find you because I'm going to put it out there as well. Listen, so anybody looking to make a donation, help fund these kids getting a beautiful, amazing experience that's changing lives, especially for them later, please find it. Believecamp.org, believecamp. Bruce, again, thank you for sharing. To our listeners, if today reminded you of the impact one person can make simply by believing in others, maybe that's your cue to step toward your next chapter, either by giving, supporting, or sharing. Thanks for joining us today on the Business Insider Roundtable. We'll see you again next time.
All right, Sock Drawer family, that's a wrap on today's Drawer Dump. Big thanks to our guests for sharing their story and their heart with us. Until next time. Don't forget, life's too short for mismatched socks. Retire the ones with holes, inspire the ones that still shine. See you soon.